Hey, live, learn, grow. I just wanted to check in and encourage you with a video. This is just something I felt like I needed to drop because it's kind of coming up in different spaces, and I hope that these things might help. So, what this video basically is about, just some tips to help you dive into your purpose. Right now, especially going through the COVID situation and all the transitions that we're in, um, things are starting to come to the surface that maybe you have suppressed. Because when we have time, we have an opportunity to shift our attention. Sometimes I don't know where the camera is, to shift our attention to those things that we have pushed aside, that we get to use the excuse, I don't have time, in order to ignore it and continue to suppress it and let yourself off the hook, right? But my first tip, with that being said, and letting yourself off the hook, is stop doing that. Right? Stop letting yourself off the hook. If you would hold someone else accountable to adhering to a thing that maybe they said that they would do at some point in time, then hold yourself accountable the same way. Don't let yourself off the hook, right? If somebody told you, hey, in 5 years I'm going to give you, I don't know, $30 to go invest in some flower business. I don't know, right? But whatever it was, they made you a promise, and they put their word out there, and they gave you a timeline as to when they would do it, but they didn't do it. You would hold them accountable. You probably would be upset, and who knows, right, how far that rabbit hole could go, because some people hold grudges more than others. So yeah, I digress on that. But hold yourself accountable, okay? Don't let yourself off the hook. Number two, recognize when protection prevents. Now, as an artist, as a creator, entrepreneur, I have tons of ideas. And there are times where I'm willing to share them. And then there's times where I'm not, right? My dad told me years ago to protect my vision with all I got, because there are people out there who will kill your dream. So protect it, protect your dream. And I have done that. But at the same time, even in the form of protecting and building that structure and that fence around it to keep it safe, you have to be sensitive to recognize when you are preventing, when you're blocking. Sometimes we can block those who can actually help us get to that thing that we want to do, because we're so scared someone's going to take it, right? We think our idea is so great and unique that if anybody gets wind of this, they're going to take it and run with it. Probably not, because people have their own ideas. That's one. Two, if God gave you a thing to do, He gave you a thing to do. It's for you to walk that thing out. It's a burden that you have, right? It's a passion. Passion just means pain. So we have to recognize what pains you, right? You may be the only one to experience a pain in that area all the time, every time you see a thing happening to the point it moves you, right? To want to do something about it. Guys, those are signals. Those are clues to your purpose, right? Those are signs that that's for you to fulfill. Nobody else in the group cares, right? Or maybe it's not moving them enough to act, unless you rally them around you and they're like, yeah, I'll support you in whatever, but they're not jumping out there to do it. So in the grand scheme of the world, you have to recognize that it's really that same philosophy magnified. Not until you are in a space where you have the money to brand and trademark and all these things and shut it down. Nobody's probably going to steal your idea, because it's going to take time to develop, and there's going to take a bit of passion to walk it out. And that leads me to my next point. Don't miss your window, right? There's a window of opportunity for the thing that we're called to do. It never goes away. Like, it's always in your ear. It's always just kind of like weighing on you. It always comes up. You can see it in your mind's eye. And maybe you've seen it since you were little. Maybe you've seen it since who knows what, but it never goes away. And there's times where it comes up and bubbles up stronger than others. Those are signals. Those are signs that it's time for you to jump. Maybe you hopscotch this thing until you can actually take a big leap, but you got to move into it in order to see it manifest. If you protect it in the safe space, it's never going to grow. I can guarantee you that. It's like a GPS, right? You may have your destination typed in. You may even type it in, right? You might even write it down and look at it on paper, but never walk towards it. If you get to the point where you're writing it down, I'm going to say this, you probably will eventually walk it out. But if you've got it in the safe place of your mind, let's say, and you're thinking about writing it down. So let's say our mind is kind of like that GPS, and you sit there and you stew on it, but you never move because you don't know what's going to happen when you start moving. Right? GPS is the same way. You put in the address. You don't know that if you start driving 30 minutes from now, it's going to start raining. You don't know if there's going to be a roadblock an hour later or 2 hours later or 5 minutes into the trip. You don't know if you might have to sit still. But the only way you find out is by moving. You must move. But guess what the GPS does? So that leads me to my next point, is that you got to sell out to the process, because the process will provide the path, right? So that GPS, once you start selling out to the process, which only happens when you move, you start moving towards that thing, right? The GPS will reroute you. You will get to the destination. You may not know how. I can guarantee you that you don't. the excuse me, the plan that you set out with, and like all these things that you intend to happen, they probably won't. Things will change. That's a guarantee, and they will go drastically different directions. But guess what? Your destination, the underlying thing that you're pursuing, you'll get there. It may be an hour later. It may be that you took a different route, but that route is a part of your process. It had to happen that way. It is a part of the building blocks to the thing that you want to see. So don't avoid it. Like, sell out to that. Walk into that, okay? And remember that you're not the expert, right? You are not the expert in anything that you have not done. So don't be afraid to seek out counsel from people who have done more than you, right? If I'm at step 0 and I'm looking at somebody who's standing on number 2, they are more than 2 steps ahead of me, realistically, because they had to put the thing in motion to even get to step 2. How do you do that, right? So there's a pre-game that happens before you actually get into the position that you want to be in. And, remember that for those of us who are believers, everything that's good is not God. God has placed a special thing within you for you to do. We also get good ideas. I'm not saying that good ideas won't work, because they will. But sometimes if it's not the God thing, the good thing won't last. And the good thing won't push you. The good thing won't eventually pull you, right? So when you start walking towards your vision, your purpose, that thing that you feel you're called for, that push will eventually become a pull, and you will start to sell out. And then you'll start to understand that, you know what? If God put this on the inside of me, God works in fullness, in completion. So just like the apple seed is actually a tree. It's already a tree. There's nothing else that has to be added to that seed. It is that thing already. If only it gets in the right environment, then it can manifest its fullness and produce fruit. And then you can call it what it is, right? Our gifts, our purpose, and what we are designed to do is exactly the same. It's exactly the same. So don't be afraid, to walk into it. Like, get into the environment. A friend of mine said, get in the arena that you're supposed to play in. Once you're in the arena, everything starts to fall out and lay itself out in such a way that you won't miss it, So I just want to encourage you, don't miss your window. Walk towards that thing that's calling you. Recognize when what you are protecting is preventing, okay? And that you are unique and you're created with a purpose, and that there's no one else like you. And if God gave you something to do, it is only for you to do. So walk it out without fear. And you'll find that faith will float you in the places that you can't stand. All right, live, learn, grow.